Hello everyone, Jim Delapine here. I'd like to do a video for you on tips on how you can create this week's menu design. So first of all, I want to make note that you should keep in mind the most important factor, and that is your design. All right, you want to make sure that you have unity, visual unity between your table tent, your brochure design, and your menu. All right, the next project will be creating a brochure for the restaurant or your client. So I want to show you some tips here on how you can get some menu information. So what I did was I downloaded a PDF file of a menu for an Italian restaurant that I found online. All right, you can go to any of these restaurants and many of the menus are downloadable as a PDF file. So then what you'd want to do is go to File, Save As, and save this as a Microsoft Word document. This way you'll have access to the text. The next step is to acquire your assets, which means going to Google and doing a search. So I did a search for some old parchment paper here that I'll work with as a background. So if I go to Google and did a search for vector swirls, for example, what you want to do in this case is try to get a large file to work with, because we'll be bringing one of these files into Illustrator and live tracing it or image tracing it. So I'm going to go onto the search tools and click on size, and I'll select larger than 2 megapixels, okay, and see what comes up here. So I'm going to select one of these images from here, and what I found was this here. I'm going to now right click on this and copy this image, okay, and then I'm going to bounce over to Illustrator, create a new document, and I want it to be print size because I still want the 8.5 by 11, so this way I can kind of gauge the size, and I'll hit OK and then paste it. So Control or Command V, and this comes in as an extremely large file. So if I select this and then hit Control or Command 0, whoops, I'm sorry, minus. Let me go out and minus this. All right, it's very, very large. So I'm going to scale this down. So I'm going to go to any corner, click and start dragging in. And I'm going to hold down the Shift to constrain after I start dragging. And then if you also hold down the Alt or Option key, it will scale into the center point. All right, so I'll do that. And then I will zoom back in. I'm hitting Control plus, and then I'll simply drag this to the side here. And I'll work with some of these, okay? So again, this is for just technique purposes, and you could take this technique and apply it to whatever your design is. So with this image selected, if you look at this now in outline mode, you'll see that you won't see anything visually. It's because it's a bitmap image. So what we have to do is vectorize this. So with it selected, you're going to go to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand. Once you select that, all right, so this is a large image, so it's giving you this little warning sign, so I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to go through all this process here. And in the end, what you'll have is a vector image. Okay, so if you now go to the outline mode, you see that you have all these images as vectors, which is what you'd want. However, this technique is kind of weird because it provides you with an outline like this shape here. So what you have to do is basically, you have to select this and then go to Object, Ungroup. All right, because what you have here are groups within groups. All right, so I'll select this other shape here, this outer shape, and if I delete that, I've now deleted the outer border here. So you can kind of see on the side here what's going on here. So it kind of gets weird. So I'll just select this inner shape here. Okay, so I'm going to put a selection around this grouping right here. All right, so I'll take this, I'm going to copy this and just place this into a new document. All right, just so I have it separated. So now it's separated. It's on the side here. Now you have a vector swirl that you can add as a design element into your menu. And now back in InDesign, we're going to create a document. So again, it's let's go from scratch here. It's a new document. So I'm going to have no facing pages, 8.5 by 11. The orientation is portrait. I'm going to remove the gutter. I'm going to keep the margins at 1/2 inch, so this way it keeps the text away from the edges, especially with the menu. And I'll make the bleed 1/8 inch, so 0.125. I'll hit tab so it populates the other cells, and I'll hit OK. And that's how I got that document here. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to bring in my background image. I'm going to, let's see here, I'm going to simply place it. All right, so I'm going to place paper here. Okay, and I'll just place this up here. And remember, I want this to be beyond the trim edge. So, okay, so it's coming in as a horizontal. So what I'll do is I'll rotate this by clicking on this rotate 90-degree clockwise, and I'll drag my bounding box out to the edge of where I want. All right, and that is to the bleed area. Then I will right click and fit the contents to the frame. Okay, so I may not want these little floral designs here. So if I don't want that, I'll simply pull this out to the left here from the middle bounding box. If I also hold down the Alt or Option key, it will pull out on both sides from the center, and then right click and fit content to frame. So now actually it needs to go a little bit more. So I don't want these floral shapes to be in the menu. Okay, so I'll now fit content to frame. So now it's beyond the bleed area here. Okay, so now the next step is this. I'm going to go to my layers panel. So if I hit F7, it's the shortcut for bringing up the layers. I'm going to lock my background and create a new layer. I like to work on new layers. So if I place this file into my InDesign document, it's going to place everything. So what I'll do is I'll simply select one, copy it, go to InDesign and paste it, Control V. I'll position this wherever I'd like. I can scale it down if I'd like. I can also change the color. All right, you can edit this in InDesign directly. So I can double click on the fill window and choose white, for example, and hit OK. And there we go. Okay, if I hit W to hide the guidelines, I see what I have. So that's step one. Now what I'll do next is start to bring in the text here. Okay, so let me just drag this to the side here. And I will go to my text box and click and drag. And I'm going to create this using a table once again. All right, just like in the calendar. So I'm going to click and drag to create a text box and then go to Table, Insert Table. And I'm going to have, just like it says here, as a matter of fact, 8 rows with 2 columns. I'm going to divide this into columns so I can have the prices on the right and the descriptions on the left. So I'll hit OK to that. And then what I'll do is go to my bottom bar here of the table and pull this down to the bottom, and then highlight everything and right click and distribute rows evenly. So now we have even rows. I will select the top one, highlight that, and merge those cells so it's one unit. I will then proceed to copy and paste my information from my Word document into my menu. And then proceed to, let's see, Caesar salad. I'll copy and paste that into the first one. And I'll put the price on the right. And put the description of that under Caesar salad. And we have that. And I will proceed to fill in or populate the rest of my rows. Okay, so I filled in the rows with the prices in the right-hand side and the salad names and descriptions on the left. Note that I have a little plus sign here. In case that happens, it means that there's text extending beyond the bounding box. So just pull this down a little bit and then you'll see what you need to see. Okay, so now the next step is I'll start arranging the text and apply fonts, font sizes. And let's see, super salad. Let me just bring this down to the next line. Highlight this, and I will I'm going to go with Georgia, and I'll make it Georgia bold. And then in the paragraph tab here, I'll center this. Also make note that I do have typography selected from my interface here, so make sure you have that selected. Apologize, I should have mentioned that in the beginning. I'll make the font larger. I want this to be large, and we'll leave that as is. And let's make the rest of this text all Georgia. Okay, and let's make this Georgia regular, but I'm going to make the salad titles bold. Okay, so I have all the salad names bold. I'll select this column here. I'll go to paragraph and make this aligned right. Okay, and I'm going to not make that bold. We'll leave the price as regular font. And make note now that since I made these bold, this entire line or the description of the salad doesn't fit in here. So what you need to do is go in here and just pull this bar out to the right a little bit. And then you may need to extend this and pull this back in and kind of go back and forth with this until everything fits how you want. You don't want anything hanging, so you may want to just do a little bit of fudging. For example, you don't want to separate the word walnuts, so I would bring this down to the next line. You don't want one word hanging down here. So it's kind of a balancing act that you have to do here. You may want to go back and forth a little bit. I think that works fine. Okay, so now the next step is this. If you hit W, this is essentially what we have so far. Okay, so all the guidelines are hidden, but note that the menu has the black strokes for the table, so you'll want to go in there with your text tool, highlight all of this, right click and go to cell options and go to strokes and fills, and then in this area here you're going to make the color none and hit OK. All right, then you'll see once you hit W that that's all gone, and you want to connect visually the name of the salad to the price. So I'm going to go to my line tool and zoom in, and I like to create guidelines. I'm going to do this visually, but if you want to create a guideline, you can simply create and drag down a guideline from the rulers, and this way you'll know how to line this up real easy, and just create a horizontal rule using the line tool. Let's try 2 points and then go to this drop down menu, and I'm going to select the Japanese dots here and then click away and hit W, and we have that. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of like minimize this, and then what I'll do is duplicate that just like in the calendar. So I'm going to select, start dragging down. As I'm dragging, I'm holding down Shift to constrain it into a vertical slide. I'm going to line it up with the $11 price and then pull this over. All right, then drag this down, Shift and Alt or Option, let go, pull this out here, and so on. Okay, so I have my dotted lines in here, and now let's bring in this element here. I'll copy this and paste this. Note that I forgot that I need to place everything on separate layers. And so let me just create a new layer, paste that into that layer, bring this up here, scale this down, make the fill white. And I want to keep everything on the same layers, so let me just select this one and drag this box and bring this up to this top layer here. So now both of these are on the same layer. Okay, so let's place the logo. So File, Place, and I'm going to place this on the same layer, and I'll use the standard logo here, and Pasta Amore, and let me scale this down. And then right click and fit the content to the frame. All right, and now we'll visually center this. All right. So as a design, I really don't like this, but let me just make note that this is just for showing you how to do certain things. So the other step I want to show you is that this really is not too readable, so what I'd like to do is lighten this parchment. All right, the logo is extremely hard to read. Probably the white version of that logo would be preferable. So let me just right click that, let me delete that, and I'll place the white version, which is simply the same logo but filled with white, and which is acceptable. All right, and so I'll fit the content to the frame. Okay, so let's make the parchment lighter. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to unlock the background, lock the other two layers, select the background, and note that this exists already in Photoshop. Okay, this is a Photoshop file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit with Photoshop. All right, so this will open up that Photoshop document. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll lighten this. I'll go to Levels. All right, so Control or Command L, and this is a histogram that represents the values of highlights, midtones, and shadows in this image. So this is telling us that there's very few pixels in this area right here. So this mountain corresponds directly to this grayscale here. So the higher the mountain, the more value of pixels are in this area right here. Very few darks and absolutely no pure whites. So let's bring some of the highlights in, and I'll even adjust the midtones and make it even lighter. Okay, so I'll hit OK, and then I'm going to save this. All right, so I'm saving this and updating the original file that was brought into InDesign, and it will automatically be updated in InDesign, so you see a lightened image. So now this is a readable menu. Okay, so now what you want to do is this. I'm going to, let me just hide the Layers panel, go to Pages, and we want to create the back of the menu, and we'll do that on the same document. So I'm going to right-click and duplicate the spread. Okay, so with page 2 active, all right, just double-click on that. I can now edit a lot of this information here. So with the page 2 active, I'll select the logo and I'll delete that. And I'll just delete these just to show you the different results here. So now back in Pages, hide this. If I highlight my first page, I still have that information. And this second page, by double clicking on that, I can edit that to be the back of the document. All right, I can simply exchange text, replace text with the entrees, etc., etc. So now what we'll do is export this for uploading purposes. So what you're going to do is go to File, Export, and we'll call this menu, and I'll save this to my desktop here so it'll opens automatically. And in this window here, what you want to do is, if you go to Marks and Bleeds, make sure crop marks is checked. Okay, and then once you hit Export, it will open up into a PDF file, and this will show you your crop marks and where the document will be trimmed. So all of this excess will be trimmed off, and you'll have that parchment going right up to the edge of the menu. Okay, I hope that helped. All right, take care, guys. Bye.